done nothing wrong.
He gives me such like stink energy, like stinky energy.
He gives me such stink energy, Tao says. Like stinky energy. Stinky like a smell. I'm so glad I turned the subtitles on. Hello everybody, it is Tom, and welcome to another video. So today we are going to look at episode 4 of season 2 of Heartstopper, which is called Challenge. So last time we looked at Promise, which featured several things going wrong. We had Tao and Elle going on a rather disastrous first date. We had Nick having pretty much like a panic attack and making himself ill from stress and anxiety over coming out. And then Charlie suggesting that they put the coming out plan on hold for a while so that Nick, can actually survive the process. So when we pick up with episode 4, we're on our way to Paris. Or into like some of the, I think all the episodes this season are fantastic, and I'm still not sure which one my favorite is, but I love the Paris arc, so we're in for a good time. Let's get into the episode. So put in my earbuds, it's kind of tangled. Alright, so let's watch season 2 episode 4 Challenge. Alright, so we have Mr. Charlie Spring in an excellent jumper as usual, heading towards the bus that will take them to Paris.
Can I help you with that?
Oh, thank you.
And there's Nick in a hoodie that will eventually belong to Charlie, because we know how these things go.
You're sure about keeping it low key?
Once again, talking not quietly about things regarding their relationship.
Yeah.
I don't think that Charlie has any hesitation about giving Nick the time that he needs to come out. But I do think, as he said last time, that he just wants everyone to know that Nick is his boyfriend. So it's difficult. He understands why it needs to be done. He's not harboring any like ill will towards Nick, obviously, about this. But it still makes him a little bit sad that they have to do this, which, makes sense.
Probably shouldn't sit next to each other on the coach.
I think Charlie is taking it too far here, being like, we shouldn't even sit together. They won't sit together, but then they'll like exchange longing glances the whole time. So I feel like that's even less subtle than sitting next to each other. But oh, Nick looks upset about that.
It could be fun, being a secret again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I mentioned last episode, it's an interesting parallel that we had in the last episode. Part of Nick's like anxiety spiral of hearing people say awful things to him. One of them was Ben saying, "It's fun, isn't it, sneaking around with him?" So here we have Charlie echoing that sentiment of it being fun to keep it a secret, which obviously it's not fun for Nick or Charlie, but Charlie's trying to make the best out of it.
I bet you can't last 2 days without kissing me.
Is that a challenge I hear?
Yeah, but Charlie able to lighten the mood a bit here with this challenge, which both of them are doomed to fail.
Hey.
I wonder if Nick it just sees the empty seat and doesn't piece together the fact that Tao is the one sitting next to the empty seat, because it does not seem to hit him until after he sits down, and Tao's just looking at him like, "Are you joking?"
I'm so excited.
What do you mean?
I am glad that Charlie gets to sit with Isaac, though, because we do get a very good conversation out of this, of course. For Nick, Tao's making that face that you make when you're walking along and, someone is coming towards you and, you're the only people on the street, and so you don't want to ignore them, but it's weird because you don't know each other, so you just kind of go... Oh, and Isaac is reading Les Miserables.
Elle, did you want to sit next to Tom?
No, I'm gonna sit with the girls.
Awkward. This, okay, I tried really hard to hear what Imogen was saying, but if you turn on the captions, it's amazing. Okay, she says, "It's the most Instagrammable city in the world, arguably. And I'm sorry, but nowadays you have to have a 7-step skincare routine. So if I pack too much, then it's the patriarchy, not my fault." Imogen, you just get better and better. So now we know that Charlie never told the friend group about what happened with Ben. But I feel like Isaac, as usual, knows more than anybody else. Because, like, the way that his eyes follow Ben at that moment, like, I think he knows that something went down between Charlie and Ben. He probably doesn't know the full story, but I'm pretty sure he picked up on the vibes there. Yeah, he looks at Ben, he looks at Charlie, and then Charlie looks over at him, and Isaac is like, nothing.
Okay, everyone, can I have some quiet?
Poor Mr. Ajayi. I also possess the kind of voice that cannot cut through a crowd. I mean, I don't like being in a noisy, crowded place anyway, but I also especially hate it because my voice is on, like, just the right level to be swallowed by the crowd, and I can't really project very well, so people I'm talking to never hear what I'm saying.
Quiet! Thank you, Mr. Farouk.
And Mr. Farouk's little nod, like, there you go. Done.
Is everyone ready to leave for Paris?
And I love that Mr. Ajayi, no matter where he goes, no matter what he's wearing, he always has his little rainbow pin on so that any student who encounters him knows he is a safe space for them. Like, any queer student will immediately see that he is a safe person for them to talk to, and I think that's really awesome. Okay, I like us chanting Paris, Paris, Paris a little better than I liked us chanting fire, 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 I must say. I love this sequence where we have this song playing, which is a great song, and we go from each face to each face, kind of knowing the things that they're all personally struggling with. So we have, like, Charlie looking up at Nick, you know, wishing that they could be together. We have Nick not looking back at Charlie, but kind of quietly ruminating on things. Elle looking in Tao's direction, you know, feeling weird about the situation. And of course, Tao just being sad because he feels like he's ruined his friendship with Elle and that she doesn't want to talk with him and all that.
Before you and Nick got together, how did you know that you liked him in that way?
I love this question from Isaac. And I also, like, I've heard some people say that in episode 7 they felt like the timing was too convenient with Isaac running into someone who's arrow ace, you know, when he's just been grappling with this. But, like, he's been grappling with this the whole time. I think they've done a really good job of planting the seeds all the way through the season, and even starting last season as well, but especially this season, where, like, from the very first episode, we see Isaac looking from couple to couple, kind of, you know, questioning it and wondering.
I just always wanted to be around him. But also, anytime he was there, I felt like I couldn't breathe. And I literally could not stop thinking about kissing him.
So Isaac asks, you know, how did you know that you liked him in that way? And Charlie says, okay, I always wanted to be around him. And Isaac's like, okay. And anytime he was there, I felt like I couldn't breathe. And Isaac's like, okay. And then we have it. I literally could not stop thinking about kissing him. And just like that, Isaac's smile drops. And he looks back at James. I can only imagine what he must be feeling in this moment of the questions of, like, what is wrong with me? Because, you know, here's James, who is adorable and nice, and they have stuff in common. James clearly likes him a lot, and he's just not feeling it. So I'm sure he's telling himself, like, well, you know, maybe if we actually kiss, maybe then I'll feel something. But, you know, and I have been there. Like, very brief story time this time, but yeah, full disclosure, I was in an abusive relationship when I was in high school, and the person that I was with was definitely less than patient with me being on the ace spectrum. So, like, he always wanted to kiss and make out, and I did not want to do any of that. Like, I felt kind of okay about kissing sometimes, but other times I just didn't want it at all. And he was constantly pushing for more and more and more. And, you know, anytime that I would deny him that, he would call me, like, a machine and a freak and be like, I think the exact words he said to me were, what kind of girlfriend doesn't want to kiss her boyfriend? And I mean, ignoring the blatant misgendering, because of course I didn't even know that I was trans back then. Yeah, that's a really shitty thing to say, and don't say that to anyone ever. So anyway, let's move on from that sad story and go back to the gang going to Paris. Elle is just staring. She said she wanted to sit with the girls. Sahara's listening to music. Tara and Darcy are wrapped up in each other, and Elle is just staring at Tao.
So the bus goes on the train? On the train, yeah.
I don't know why. I do not know why this cracks me up so much, but like Harry just not being able to understand how this works, of being like, so the bus goes on the train, and Ben's just like walking him through it, like, yeah, you know, it goes on the train, bus goes on train, and it just really cracks me up.
Oui, on arrive aujourd'hui.
Yes. Okay. First appearance of Monsieur Nicolas Nelson. First time Nick is speaking French. And if anyone out there is a native French speaker, please let me know what you think about Kit's French, because, you know, he obviously said that he didn't think he did a very good job. To my ear, it sounds pretty good. But obviously, I am not a French speaker, so I have no idea if it sounds natural or not.
Je veux bientôt plus avoir de réseau là, on est dans le gros tunnel.
And Tao, I love Tao in the background. So first, Tao's listening to music, he has his earbuds in, and then like he frowns a little bit, and like he takes out his earbud and looks at Nick with just this look of like, what?
What the hell was that?
Tao's face.
Your dad's French?
He lives in Paris, so yeah, we're gonna try and meet up.
I do really like that Nick and Tao share this moment, because this is the first moment that they have shared that did not have any kind of tension behind it. Like, it's just Tao being surprised that Nick can speak French, as everyone is surprised. And like the fact that Nick is so confused by why everyone is so why everyone freaks out when they find out he can speak French. But yeah, so as I've said before, I took French in high school, but I do not remember any of it. The only foreign language that I am halfway decent at is Japanese, but I feel like being able to speak Japanese does not have the same like sexiness that like most people don't look at you and like when you speak Japanese and be like, that's sexy. So, but we must test it. So I will now speak to you in my decaying Japanese, which I'm very out of practice in. But, you know, it's a very important experiment. So let me know your thoughts. Because, yeah, I can't speak to you in French. So, はじめまして、トムです。実は4年間日本に住んでいたけど、アメリカへ帰ってから勉強してないので日本語が下手になってしまいました。残念ですね。そうですね。もったいないでしょう。でもこれからも頑張ります。よろしくお願いします。ありがとうございます。Alright, so let me know your thoughts below. Is speaking Japanese as sexy as Nick speaking French? I don't think so, but here we are. Okay, Tao looks back at Elle, who is already staring at him.
Sir,
Oh, here comes one of my favorite moments.
are we under the water?
Yeah.
I like that Darcy asks him, are we under the water? And he seems like he's in a pretty good mood. He's like, yeah, we are. No hint of his usual sternness.
Then why can't we see any fish?
And then she asks, why can't we see any fish? And Mr. Farouk is like, God damn it.
It's just pitch black.
Oh, Darcy.
Okay, we're about half an hour away now, everyone.
The way that Mr. Farouk, even now, is checking out Mr. Ajayi, just like side-eye, just watching him.
I guess I've just been worried about when I said you didn't say it back.
Darcy just determinedly trying to ignore the I love you until it goes away, and just like, I hate that she gaslights Tara through this whole thing. I understand her reasons, but it's still really hard to watch.
You mean about our prom outfits? Because I still think we should be Princess Peach and Mario.
Yeah, and you can see kind of, again, if you watch Darcy's eyes, you can see kind of the moment of panic that she hides very well, where like her gaze goes all over the place for a second. And then she's like, I'm just gonna joke my way out of this. I love all the French pop songs that they have during the Paris episodes. They are all bangers, but that's not really surprising given the whole soundtrack is awesome. They must have had so much fun filming this. Like, obviously it was work, and I'm sure a lot of it was hard, but like, it just gave the impression of being a really fun environment. Song continues in French. Thank you, subtitles. Nick and Charlie share a smile. Isaac has made a lot of headway in Les Miserables. Imogen notices that Ben is staring at Charlie. Here's the thing, like, when Nick confronted Imogen about dating Ben, she really dismissed him, but I also think it lodged in her brain, and she's been thinking about it this whole time, because she knows Nick. She knows what kind of person he is, and she knows that he would not come out with this out of nowhere. I'm sure she thinks that he's mistaken, or that Ben really has changed, but she's still thinking about it. And, like, I think she's getting more and more the sense that something is off about Ben, and she's not really sure what it is, but it will become clear as we go along.
Oh, do you need a hand?
No.
Poor Tao, he's trying. And Elle's just like struggling to drag her bag up the stairs. And Tao is right behind her, so he must have seen that.
We have to share beds.
Charlie grinning, oh, we have to share beds. How terrible.
Well, I'm up in the window.
I want the other bed.
I thought you'd find it awkward sharing with Nick. Just standing next to her makes me feel like I'm being electrocuted.
Yeah, now, Tao does... So, it definitely is a bit crappy that Tao... Oh, yes, hello? What? 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 What's up? What are we crying about? Anyway, yeah, so it's not the kindest move from Isaac and Tao to not let Nick and Charlie share a bed, but, you know, I think Tao is sincere, if misguided, in his thing where he's like, oh, I thought you would feel awkward. But the thing is that, like, in the comics, of course, Tao doesn't know yet that Nick and Charlie are a couple. And so when he tells Charlie, like, I thought you would feel awkward sharing with Nick, it's because he thinks that Charlie has an unrequited crush on Nick and that it would be really awkward if they shared a bed together. But, you know, it doesn't quite work here because Tao knows that they're together and, you know, Charlie wants to share a bed with Nick, but, you know, it's fine. Like, if they had to find some way to get Nick and Charlie into opposite beds, how many of the quite adorable moments from the comics that we would not be able to use in the show if we didn't have this moment? So they needed to get it in there somehow, and I think this works fine. I mean, like, and also there's just the fact that, like, you wouldn't necessarily want the couple to have a bed to themselves if you're sharing a room with them. Like, I mean, you know, so we're just going with it. We're just gonna go with it.
You're being sad. Come on.
Just ripped Elle's arm out of the socket there, Tara.
Oh, sorry.
I feel like we need, like, some good comedic awkward music in the background of this scene. I do love this moment. And even if they can't be in the same bed together, like, there's just something about going to sleep near the person that you like the most. I love this image. Like, I think I'm gonna take a screen cap of this and put it on my background because I love this image of, like, Nick and Charlie asleep with their hands joined in the space between them. And I think it's really interesting that when they wake up, Nick is still reaching for him, but Charlie has pulled in on himself, which I think is really true regarding how Charlie acts in general about, like, you know, his eating disorder, his mental health, all the things that you know, Nick is constantly trying to reach out and help him, and sometimes Charlie reaches back, but a lot of the time he pulls into himself instead.
Je suis chocolat.
So the caption mistakenly says that Tao is speaking French when, I mean, I guess technically, but he did just say, "I am chocolate," which is interesting. I love this whole thing where, like, Tao just, like, drive-bys the apple juice onto Elle's table and then hurries off to his own. And it works. Like, it's a good sign of, you know, here is something that the old Tao would do. And then Tao turns around to watch. He looks so scared. Like, is she gonna drink it? She looks back and he's like, nope, I'm not looking. Just the fond exasperation on her face is lovely. Charlie forever messing with his curls.
I wanted to share a bed with you.
I'm sure we'll get to do it one day.
Charlie's eyebrows go like, excuse me?
I didn't mean to do it. I was just talking about, you know.
And this is another thing that we'll talk about later, but let me just say that the fact that some people find it unrealistic that Nick and Charlie do not have sex in this season, I have many things to say about that, which we'll get to when we get to that episode.
A few moments later.
Just to get into it a little bit, like, it's clear from this scene and from things they say later, that both of them are interested in exploring the physical side of their relationship. They're just not ready yet, and that's fine. I feel like so many teen shows, especially queer teen shows, like, I feel like they've conditioned us to expect immediate sex, like, to expect that every single teenager is constantly thinking about sex. That's all they want. They're all doing it, and if they're not, then it's unrealistic or there's something wrong with them. And, like, it's especially galling to me that in a season that specifically focuses on an asexual storyline, we still are having this conversation of, like, well, it's unrealistic if they don't have sex. But no, it's not. So I'm sorry, this is a little bit of a sensitive issue for me. But, like, when I was in school, only one of my friends, when I was this age, only one of my friends had ever had sex. And she was an early developer in many ways. No one else in my entire friend group had done anything like that. And that was not abnormal. And, like, I don't think that we should be, like, shaming teenagers. Like, I think sex positivity is an amazing thing. And we need to be talking to teens about, like, having safe sex, because abstinence only does not work and is stupid. But at the same time, we need to be supporting the teens who aren't ready for it or just don't want to have it, you know? I said I wasn't going to get into it, but I got into it. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Like, seriously, when Charlie says I can't wait, he's clearly not just talking about, you know, sharing a bed. And Nick agrees, but neither of them are ready yet. And that's fine. And just to be clear, like, if you were someone who, as a teenager, was having sex at this age, that's totally fine. I am not shaming you in any way whatsoever. I'm just saying I think that it is wonderful to have representation of two people who clearly care about each other a lot and are interested in exploring the physical aspect of things, but also aren't ready. Like, I think that's an important message to send to teens, that it's okay to take your time. It's okay not to jump into things like this. Sex is a scary thing, and it really means, like, bearing all of yourself to another person, and that can be really intimidating and really scary. And they shouldn't feel like they have to jump into that just because everyone does that, you know? So I think whether you're on the ace spectrum or allosexual, whatever you are, I still think this is a good message to have. So I don't think it's fair to say it's unrealistic, because this is genuinely the experience for many people, and it's good that we have this representation. Okay, I'm done for real now. The end.
Charlie! Oh, you're being gay. Good job. Carry on.
Now, Charlie is being gay. Nick is being bi, actually. But, you know, I know what you mean, Darcy.
Two people.
I like how Elle is like, you know, Tal made a step today, giving me the apple juice. So I'm going to take a step, and we're gonna go see this museum together.
Meet back here by the coach at 5 p.m.
I have also heard a lot of people being like, they just let them wander around the city on their own? That's so irresponsible. Well, let me tell you, when I was 12 years old, I went on a Spanish/French club trip to New York City, and they literally did this exact same thing. They were like, okay, get into pairs and groups, go explore, be back here at the bus in blah, blah, blah hours, have fun. So this does happen. Obviously, I don't know about schools in the UK, but this definitely happened in my high school. Aw, James and Isaac are so cute.
We should get one of those padlocks and write our initials on it.
So, judging by how Imogen was talking about Ben before, we get the impression that up until now, Ben has been like... We know that Ben is very good at pretending to be like a decent person. And we saw this, first of all, in the fact that his teachers were gushing about what a pleasure he was to have in class. And, you know, the fact that he had a girlfriend when he was with Charlie who seemed like to think that he was great. And even how he treated Charlie at first. But, like, he's very good at pretending to be a good guy. And now it's starting to crack a bit. And he's starting to show Imogen some of the sides of himself that he showed to Charlie, which it's very telling that, like, the nasty side of Ben comes out the most when he's with someone he's supposed to be in a relationship with.
You're joking. So lame.
How could you possibly look at Imogen's adorable, like, hopeful face and tell her that her idea is lame? How dare you, sir? Of course, Nick sees this whole thing. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't say, I told you he was a dick. He just looks concerned because he's a good friend.
I need a drink.
We probably shouldn't drink alcohol.
I need a croissant then.
Come on.
Yeah, someone needs to write a story about what Mr. Farouk and Mr. Ajayi get up to during the day while the kids are all wandering around. Oh, Nick's saying he's been craving ice cream all day.
Why don't you two go together then?
Meet you in a couple of hours.
Nick has like a secret smile on his face. Isaac is just grinning. Oh, the famous I Heart Paris shirt, which I'm sad that Tara doesn't look horrified at the sight of the shirt because I enjoyed that very much in the comics. And Charlie wishing that he could do that. He gets just close enough to Nick's fingers to feel the electricity, and Nick doesn't notice, which is sad.
My friend just wanted to go find the nearest McDonald's.
Just walking face first into balloons tied to a bicycle, as one does in Paris.
Est-ce que je pourrais avoir double de glace au chocolat s'il vous plaît?
Since when could you speak French, like an actual French person?
Oh, my dad's French.
Since when?
Since his birth?
And once again, Nick just looking very confused as to why everyone is so impressed by the fact that he speaks French. Nick just looks so confused.
How are things between you and Nick?
I love how perfectly they, like, mirrored the comics. I mean, in general, but in this shot, particularly with, like, the picture that Charlie takes and then where Tara and Charlie are sitting.
Really good. Why? Does it look like we're not okay?
Poor Charlie, immediately jumping to the worst conclusion.
It looks like Nick is so in love with you.
Yeah, I know I said this when we read this part of the comics, but I love that we get Charlie and Tara talking here, and, you know, like, just the matchups that we don't usually get of characters talking to each other and interacting who don't usually interact.
You're gonna be great. And even if you're not great, I'll still think you're great because I always think you're great.
Okay, I don't know why, but these tutus stress me out because they're sticking straight out. Like, I just want them to go down, and they don't, and it bothers me. I can't articulate why. It just troubles me on a deep cellular level.
I suppose I'm sort of jealous of you and Darcy.
I'm jealous of you and Nick in some ways too. Darcy just makes everything into a joke.
I also really like how both of them admit that they're jealous of the other. You know, Charlie, of course, being jealous that Tara and Darcy are out, and so they can be open about their relationship, and Tara being jealous of Nick and Charlie for the way that they communicate. And I know she says that Darcy makes a joke out of everything, but it should be mentioned that while Nick and Charlie do communicate very well, Charlie does this sometimes too. Charlie often tries to deflect things that hit too close to home with humor as well, which we see a few times in this season.
I said I love you to her last week. She didn't say it back.
I'm sure she does want to.
It's so interesting that, like, at the beginning of this, Tara is reassuring Charlie that Nick is in love with him, and now here we have Charlie reassuring Tara that Darcy is in love with her. It's just a beautiful kind of symmetry.
Absolute disaster! Jonesy.
I love in the comics how Darcy always calls Tara Jonesy, and I kind of wish they did it more in the show because I think it's adorable, but I'm really glad that she does it here.
They're out of mint chocolate chips, so I had to get a strawberry.
But yeah, no mint chocolate chip, that is indeed very sad.
Shall we go and sit down there? It's a better view.
Not James dissing the view that the rest of them are enjoying.
I'm still full from breakfast.
So you didn't eat that much breakfast?
Yeah, I did.
And, like, how concerned Nick looks here. I think it's really interesting because we saw last episode Charlie lying to Nick's face without even blinking or indicating a lie when he told him that his history coursework was done. And here too, we have Charlie lying to Nick. He's really good at lying about things like this, like things that are very sensitive topics, because he's just used to it. He's just used to doing it. And the fact that Nick knows he is lying here, like, I feel like Nick is concerned, first of all, because Charlie clearly is not eating. Second of all, because Charlie is lying about it. But third of all, like, I think he's a little disconcerted that Charlie could be, like, lying to his face like this and doing it without any sign of, like, any sign that it's troubling him or any sign that he's hesitating, that he doesn't really want to lie. No, he's just full on lying to him. And maybe Charlie picks up on it because he does take the ice cream.
Chocolate, not bubble gum.
And here we have Charlie deflecting by calling back to the bubblegum controversy. Never forget. Charlie, how do you do this? Do you not know how to eat an ice cream?
You've got some on your nose.
Oh.
Adorable.
Let me get that. A little bit more.
At least he didn't do, like, the mom trick of, like, getting a tissue and spitting on it and, like, rubbing it. Like, it's much cuter the way that Nick does it. Musée de Montmartre.
I'm sorry for being weird about Naomi and Felix. I'm happy you're making new friends, but I just get in my head about being left behind and alone.
I'm glad that Tao apologizes for that, because, like, he really has grown since season 1. Like, season 1, he was so jealous about Nick coming in and stealing Charlie, and, like, it really does seem like he's grown a bit since then and learned a bit, and, like, him freaking out about Elle inviting Naomi and Felix to the party felt very much like a backslide. But, you know, here he's showing that, like, no, he actually has grown. He actually is happy that you're making friends. It's just kind of that knee-jerk reaction from that deep fear of Tao's that, you know, he will lose the people that he cares about.
Our friendship is really important to me.
Me too.
Honest communication. Always nice.
I don't want to stop being friends.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think they did really need to do this. Like, when they kind of jumped, like, headfirst into dating in the last episode, it was pretty clear that neither of them really knew how to make that jump. It was just, like, a weird situation. Like, Tao thought that he had to be someone different in order for Elle to like him romantically, and Elle was really weirded out by how Tao was acting, and then tempers were running high because, you know, Tao was insulting her favorite movie and then freaking out about Naomi and Felix. So, like, let's just push that aside. I think it's good here that they're going back into their friendship with the knowledge that both of them have romantic feelings for each other. So this way they can proceed much more naturally, and it's so much more organic and allows them to be so much more themselves. So I think it's good that they did this, even though, you know, obviously it's unfortunate that it didn't work out right from the start with them dating. But I think they needed to go on this journey together and figure out how to be with each other this way. Yeah, and especially, one more thing, especially, like, labeling the movie situation as a date really put a lot of pressure on it and a lot of like expectation. So the fact that they're going on all of these really what amount to dates during the Paris trip but are not calling them dates allow them to be more natural with each other and just be themselves, which is exactly what they needed to do to begin with, but they couldn't because they had the word date looming over them. And they proceed to have a very adorable time together. And the imagery here is wonderful, where like we have them kind of circling, you know, not quite connecting, but at least they're moving in the same direction now.
Living somewhere like this and just being able to paint all day.
That'll be you in like 3 years' time.
And manifesting.
It's fun here too that Elle is saying the exact same thing that Naomi said to her about manifesting. Because they're relaxed, you can really see Elle's passion about art coming through, and like the way that Tao looks at her when she's so passionate, like it's very lovely.
Excusez-moi.
Just don't say you're chocolate. Tao and woman speaking French. Again, that's very generous towards Tao. Yeah, I like that in this sequence we have Tao looking at Elle when she doesn't realize that, you know, he's staring at her, and here we have Elle looking at Tao. Just being able to appreciate one another in their kind of natural states and kind of remember why they liked each other in the first place. And Elle kind of realizing, oh crap, I still like him, damn it. Ugh. Ben. I think one of the reasons why Ben is like moping more than usual here, and why he's kind of letting this side of himself come out in front of Imogen, is that in Ben's normal life, he doesn't see Nick and Charlie together all that often. He usually just sees Nick, or like just sees Charlie, though not so much anymore, obviously. But on this trip, he's seeing evidence of the fact that Nick and Charlie are not only together, but they are happy. And like the fact that he couldn't get that happiness, and that he thinks that he never will. Yep, and here we have again. So it was more subtle in episode 2 when this happened, but here we have very clearly Ben notices Nick watching and immediately pulls Imogen towards him. And this time she clocks what's going on, and she's like, "Get off me."
Get off.
What?
And Ben's like, "What? What did I do?"
Do you guys mind if I hang with you for a bit? Ben's being so boring.
I'm so glad Imogen comes over to them.
Sure, feel free.
Yay, thanks guys. You guys are more fun.
They are more fun.
All he cares about is having a girlfriend.
Nick's just like, yep, this is not surprising. None of this surprises me in the least.
Do you even like him? He sounds horrible.
I wonder if Elle had any like experiences with Ben, because they would have been in the same year when she was at Truum. So, but it seems like he hides that side of himself fairly well from the general public, so I'm not sure if she would have had any negative experience with him.
Maybe I haven't had the best track record of relationships.
Yeah, I mean, so far, Imogen's just been working her way through, like, the Charlie Spring catalog. I kind of want Imogen and Charlie to have, like, a bonding moment over the fact that they've been with, or been interested in the exact same people.
I think being honest is better than living with regret.
Imogen dropping truth bombs and then walking off.
Why are you walking like that?
And just being a weirdo. / Will Gao probably just being a weirdo. Bistrot, l'escalier.
Boeuf bourguignon. 7.
I love Mr. Farouk in this scene. So he's listing off the things that they ordered, like belligerently at the waiter, who's just like, yeah, yes, and?
Charlie, sit down. Sit down.
Okay, Mr. Ajayi says, Charlie, sit down. Why specifically Charlie? Now, I feel like Ben must have chosen the seat on purpose, obviously. And of course, Imogen noticing. Nick looking very concerned.
Can you breathe?
Tao does not seem to be enjoying the snail experience. And, like, that's the only thing he ordered for dinner. Like, that's his dinner. We have Imogen, yeah, looking back and forth between Ben and Charlie. putting things together. Like, Imogen is smart. Like, Imogen is a smart person. She can pick up on these things for sure. Even though, like, the whole friend group except for Isaac haven't picked up on anything weird between Ben and Charlie that we know of.
I haven't spoken to you properly in ages.
The fact that every single interaction that Ben and Charlie have in public is Ben denying the fact that he knows Charlie at all, and like being offended that people think that he knows Charlie. And then here he comes out with, I haven't spoken to you properly in ages, like turning on the charm that he clearly turned on Imogen prior to letting her see like his real self, is just, and the audacity of this man to like do all of the things that he did to Charlie and then try to gaslight him into believing that, like, you know, everything's cool, everything's fine, I'm just a nice guy and we're having a nice conversation. But luckily Imogen is there to make sure he doesn't get away with it. Imogen's face, she's like, are you kidding me?
How's your first day in Paris?
And I like Nick notices, and like when Ben asks how was your first day in Paris, Nick starts to get up. Like, he is full on going to get up and walk around the table and either like, I'm not sure what he's planning to do. Maybe he's going to pull Charlie's chair around to the table where he is. Maybe he's going to like switch chairs with Charlie, which that would not surprise me. That would be fine. But he doesn't get a chance to because...
Not interested in how my day was then?
Why are you in the mood with me?
Because you're supposed to be my boyfriend. But instead you've got some sort of obsession with Charlie.
I love James. This needs to be a reaction meme of just James in the background, like... James is the popcorn meme. And, like, if you look at Harry is just loving this. Like, he looks so pleased that this is going on.
I don't know why you're obsessed with Charlie.
Nick looks very alarmed there, and I don't blame him. Like, I love that Imogen calls Ben out here, but I don't like that she brings Charlie into it. I don't like that she mentions that aspect of things twice. Like, the first time she did it, the whole room wasn't really listening, but the second time she does it, it's kind of like, oh, maybe don't mention that part.
I'm breaking up with you.
There's a gasp from around the room. Isaac is grinning at the end of the table.
You're not mature, and clearly you have some issues that you need to resolve before you're ready to be in a relationship.
Mr. Ajayi just quietly like, you go, girl. While Mr. Farouk's probably thinking, like, they better not have put onions in this.
And I'm not going to wait around for you.
Harry looks thrilled. Harry is loving this impromptu dinner theater.
If you don't want to be with me anymore, that's fine. You don't have to be such a bitch about it.
Benjamin, language.
She's got a point, man.
She's got a point, someone says.
There's no need to call her a bitch.
It's very telling that, like, Harry and the other assholes who are usually just going around being assholes think Ben has gone too far here. Yeah, so it's unfortunate that, like, their sense of decency does not extend to, you know, homophobia. And I'm sure there's a certain amount of misogyny here as well, of like the chivalrous, like, oh, you must treat the women nicely kind of thing going on here. But nonetheless, I do like that Harry calls him out here. And it's just bizarre that, like, Harry thinks this is too far. And one thing I didn't catch until just now is that before Ben storms out, he looks straight over at Nick, which I think is because, you know, as he says later, he thinks that Nick is the one who told Imogen that he is a thing for Charlie. Of course, not realizing that, you know, he's staring at Charlie all the time, and she has eyes. So, and when I say thing for Charlie, I of course mean toxic, unhealthy obsession. It's also interesting that earlier Ben was saying how if Nick wants to hide his relationship with Charlie, he should stop acting, quote-unquote, so gay for him. And yet, here he is, doing pretty much the exact same thing of just gazing at Charlie endlessly and, you know.
Fine, then.
Bye, Ben! The dude next to Harry just goes, bye, Ben! Oh my gosh. She has done nothing wrong. He gives me such stink energy, Dallas says. Like stinky energy. Stinky like a smell. I'm so glad I turned the subtitles on.
Hey.
I just love that Nick and Charlie, as a couple, go to make sure that Imogen is okay.
I just wanted to come and check that you're okay.
Very similar to what Nick says to Charlie in episode 1 of season 1, where he just wanted to check that Charlie was okay after rugby practice. Another incident with Ben, and in this case it's Nick and Charlie coming to make sure Imogen is okay after an interlude with Ben.
Did you and Ben ever?
One thing that I think Joe just does such a good job of portraying is like the moments when Charlie just shuts down because someone has said something that he doesn't want to deal with or can't process. And this is another one of those moments, like when Ben gets brought up and when Imogen asks him flat out, like, did you and Ben ever ... You can just see like something shudders, like Charlie just shuts down, closes off. And Imogen, who again is quite perceptive, especially when it comes to reading other people, though not Ben at first, but she figured it out eventually, notices this and immediately backs off on the subject. Like, I think Imogen has an emotional maturity that she does not get credit for very often. Like, I think she's very good at reading other people. I mean, to be fair, she is one of the only people who, like, really caught on to the fact that Nick and Charlie were a thing. After sports day, which, like, it was pretty obvious, but anyway.
It doesn't matter. He's gone now.
Imogen, like, immediately is like, forget it, it's fine, I don't need to know. I mean, to be fair, Charlie's reaction pretty much tells her all that she needs to know. And the fact that Nick told her earlier that Ben had done some really bad stuff, I'm sure it's now all come together for her that, this is what Nick was trying to warn me about.
Ugh, everything would be so much easier if I was into girls.
Laughs in episode 8. Yeah, we'll talk about the potential of Imogen being into girls a bit later.
I'm not so sure about that, but I know what you mean.
And I love this reaction, like, and you do sometimes hear this from straight people who say, like, oh, it would be so much easier if I were gay, or it would be so much easier if I was into insert gender here. And, like, it might seem that way, but, yeah, maybe not. A hug with Nick and Charlie, like, that's the dream. Like, who among us would turn down a Nick and Charlie hug? Rhea Norwood, you lucky, lucky, lucky girl. Like, imagine being surrounded by this much love. Ugh. So I know the book that Isaac is reading, because I've seen that cover multiple times. I have not read it, and I don't remember what it's called, but I recognize it. $10 Tao's looking at pictures of Elle on his phone while he's laying there smiling.
How'd it go with Elle today?
You know, you gotta hand it to Nick. Like, Tao has shut him down so many times, but he keeps trying. Like, he is determined to just be nothing but friendly and nice and keep, like, extending these overtures towards Tao. And here, finally, it pays off.
It was fine.
Yeah, so, like, Tao at first answers like he usually does, with his usual, like, closed-off kind of wariness with Nick. And he's like, it was fine. And Nick looks like he thinks that's going to be it. Okay, well, Tao's not going to talk to me, that's fine. But Tao actually reconsiders.
We just walked around the museum for a bit. It was nice.
And not only does he talk to Nick, but he moves closer to him and faces him, which is a very, very good sign body language-wise. Like, he doesn't, I mean, obviously in season 1, every time Tao is around Nick, he's, like, arms folded, glaring. But here, like, we see him very relaxed. He's sitting up, he's facing Nick. He's finally starting to accept that Nick is not a bad guy, in fact.
Well, I always thought you two would be good together, so.
You don't get it. Elle is literally the most amazing person in the world.
I just love this moment so much. Like, I love Tao and Nick getting closer as friends.
I was her friend when she came out as trans, and that was not a fun time for her.
And, like, there's just so much empathy in Nick's expression the whole time he's listening.
Why would she ever like me anyway?
Yeah, and again, here we have Tao's insecurities, and part of the reason why he thought he had to change himself in order to be with her.
I think you're pretty cool too, and interesting.
But not beautiful.
I love that Tao says that.
You're a good-looking guy, if that's what you're worried about.
I mean, Kit Connor can tell you something about what a good-looking guy Will Gal is.
I thought you didn't even like me.
I do like you, Tao.
And Nick just saying this so directly, and using Tao's name as well, like saying, I do like you, Tao.
You care about your friends so loudly without worrying what anyone else might think, and that's really cool.
This moment, I think, this is the moment when we see Tao finally come around and finally realize, like, what an awesome person Nick is. That Nick has just, like, quietly and earnestly told him all these good things about himself. The fact that Nick, all this time, has liked Tao as a person, despite the fact that Tao has not treated him very nicely.
I'm gonna go get something from the vending machine.
He's just, like, speechless at the things that Nick has just told him. And so he kind of snaps himself out of it and is like, I gotta get out of here. Because suddenly he's realizing maybe how amazing Nick is.
Isaac, you coming?
Yeah, sure.
And in the comics, Tao leaves in a huff. So I'm glad that they changed that. Like, in the comics, Tao was angry about, like, Nick suggesting that he and Elle could be a thing, because he was like, you don't get it. She's amazing and I suck. And then he just storms out. But here, I really like how they did it here, where, like, Nick gets to be his wonderful, beautiful, honest, earnest self, and Tao is, like, genuinely emotionally affected by Nick telling him all these nice things about himself. Yeah, definitely not a couple. Nothing coupley about that picture.
Did you just post another photo of me on Instagram?
Charlie browsing Instagram while brushing his teeth. I love this quiet moment between them.
Oh my god, Nick, you giant fucking idiot!
You are fully trapped. Now you have to sleep in my bed.
I love that we get to see the more playful side of their relationship.
You seem kind of down today.
I just wanted to be alone with you.
I think Charlie is deflecting here to a certain degree as well. Like, I'm sure he did want to be alone with Nick, but there's a lot more to it than that.
So,
Charlie's like, oh, what's going on here?
is that okay?
Asking for consent. Excellent.
Yeah.
And Charlie's like, yeah? I do like in the comics he says, obviously. We get little neon pink flowers, which we have not seen before, which I think do a really good job of, like, showing the extra level of emotion that's going on here, and the extra level of, you know, stuff. Like, I think the fact that a hickey emerged from this situation was not because Nick was, like, doing it so hard, but the fact that, like, because, you know, Charlie is a pale British boy with, like, paper-thin skin and is prone to bruising, so. Tao just sacked out. Isaac literally asleep with a book on his face. Now, I'm sure there are some people who, I know there are some people who brush their teeth first thing in the morning. And, like, especially if you're Charlie and you might be kissing someone, I can understand this. But I also think it could potentially tie in with Charlie's eating disorder, because when you brush your teeth, your mouth is kind of, like, no longer prepared for food, if that makes sense. So, like, the teeth brushing is the thing you do when you're finished with food. So, like, by brushing your teeth, then suddenly your mouth is not expecting food anymore. So I don't know if that could tie in at all, but just a thought.
Oh, freaking
No. Yeah. I think, like, I respect the fact that they're not using really, like, they're not using super strong language, though they have upped, like, the level of language they use in season 2 from season 1. Like, season 1, we had piss off, and that was about it. Season 2, we're getting the word shit as well. But I love that we end with Charlie just saying, oh, and then the music, like, explodes. So, yeah, very, very good ending there. So, of course, in the comics, what happens is Tao, again, does not yet know about Nick and Charlie. So he, when he sees the bruise, Charlie tells him he fell in the shower, and Tao's just like, oh, well, that was dumb. Like, he believes it. And then when Charlie finally tells Tao that he and Nick are together, and they go through that whole ordeal, Tao Tao finally realizes that it is in fact a hickey, and he's like, why didn't you just borrow some makeup from the girls? And Nick and Charlie are both like, what I think happened here is that, like, Nick and Charlie don't think about it, don't think of the fact that they could cover it up with, you know, concealer or something, which tracks because neither of them have ever had to experience this before, and that's not something that would necessarily occur to you immediately if you don't have any experience with it. So they go down to breakfast, everyone sees it, so it is now too late. So even if one of the girls is like, hey, do you want some makeup to cover that up? It's too late. Everyone has already seen it. So, like, I think that makes sense in terms of, like, why they don't try to cover it up. Because I think Nick and Charlie just don't know enough to realize that they should do that. And, you know, Tao very quickly into the next episode is rather distracted by Elle seeing his naked chest. So, and Isaac, you know, maybe he's read in a book somewhere that you can cover it up with concealer, but if so, he has not shared that information. So, yeah, I think it's just a case of, like, ignorance, and then it's too late. So, but anyway, so that is the end of episode 4. So yeah, a really, really good episode. I love the episodes where they're in Paris, and a lot of interesting stuff happens in this one. We have Imogen being amazing and telling off Ben in front of everybody. We have a lot of interesting character interactions. We have Tao and Elle kind of figuring out how to be with each other again, how to be friends again so they can eventually move into the land of romance. Yeah, and an excellent ending to an episode with Charlie saying "oof" and the music. So, yeah, great episode. So we will stop here for today, and yeah, thank you as always to our patrons. We've had some new patrons lately, which welcome, and thank you so much for being patrons. So all of our patrons are amazing and wonderful, and a special shout out to our Nick Nelson members, Kelly Walker, Paul Z, and Kent Smither. And yeah, over on Patreon, just to get it out here, because there has been some confusion as of late, many reactors include their unedited reactions on Patreon. I do not do that because the only things I edit out of my reactions that I post on YouTube are things that I don't want people to see. So like moments when I'm stammering, or like taking time to find my words, or just sitting in silence. That's literally all I cut out of these reactions, which is why they're like an hour long. So, like, and also just, I don't particularly like showing myself unedited because, like, you know, those moments belong to me. I should be able to keep them. But if you do join the Patreon, you do get early access to videos, you get daily Darla pictures, and something we're trying out lately, which I think we're going to keep doing because people seem to like it, is you also get access to my Nick and Charlie fan fiction, which has never been posted anywhere else and probably will never be posted anywhere else. But yeah, so I am a writer. I write books. I haven't written fan fiction in years, but I thought that would be something fun that I could do to give something else to patrons who, you know, are wonderful and just out of the goodness of their heart are supporting me and the things that I do. So that's something, if that appeals to you, you can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, but you don't have to, obviously, no pressure whatsoever. But yeah, I think I'm going to do the only one that's up right now, because I just got this idea. The only fic that is up right now is it's kind of a novelization of the latter half of episode 3 from Nick's point of view. So if that interests you, that is up on Patreon at the moment. Yes, and there will hopefully be more fics in the future, provided people are interested in those things, but it seems like they might be. So anyway, yeah, so I need to get ready for bed and try to actually sleep tonight. We'll see how that goes. So that is all for me. I hope all of you are having an amazing day or night or whatever time of day it may happen to be, and I will see you next time. Yes, okay. All right, bye. I have to find the stop button. There it is. Okay.
Say you're coming